She came to the shooting range to practice, but instead, they handcuffed her, mocking her, assuming she didn't belong because of her gender and race. But when the door swung open and a woman general stormed in, the entire room fell silent. What happened next turned humiliation into unforgettable karma. What happens next? Let's start the story. The sound of gunfire echoed rhythmically through the steel-lined walls of the Patriot shooting range, a place where retired veterans, hobbyists, and officers honed their skills. It was a place that prided itself on discipline, skill, and respect, or so it claimed. When Amara Jenkins stepped through the glass doors that morning, heads turned, not because of who she was, but because of who they thought she wasn't. Tall, confident, with mocha-toned skin and tightly braided hair, she wore jeans, a leather jacket, and carried her personal firearm case. But to the small-minded few scattered around the range, older men with puffed chests and quick judgments, she didn't fit. "You lost, sweetheart," one scoffed from the counter. "Salons down the street." Another chuckled. "Hope she knows which end of the gun points forward." Amara ignored them. She'd dealt with worse her whole life: racism, sexism, both woven together into exhausting patterns. She walked to the rental desk, slid her credentials forward. "Lane 5, please." The clerk barely glanced. "License." She handed over her concealed carry permit, military ID, and her registration. His eyes narrowed. "This can't be right," he muttered. "You military?" "Was," she replied coolly. 12 years. Combat certified." But instead of nodding with respect, the man frowned deeper. "I think this is fake. No way someone like you." His voice trailed, implying the rest. Before she could protest, 2 security officers approached. "Ma'am," one said with rehearsed condescension, "you're going to need to come with us. Right now." "On what grounds?" Amara asked, voice sharp. "Fake ID, potential firearms violation," the other answered. "Turn around. Hands behind your back." Her jaw clenched. "I've done nothing wrong." But the handcuffs were already clicking around her wrists. People nearby smirked, some pulled out phones, others muttered things like, "Knew it," and didn't look right anyway. Humiliation flushed hot across her face, but her eyes burned colder than ice. "This," she growled, "is the mistake of your life." Yeah, the guard scoffed, guiding her roughly toward the back office. But before they reached the door, a sudden voice split the air, sharp, commanding, lethal. "Stand down. Right. Now." The room froze. Boots clicked against concrete as a woman in full military dress stormed in. The ribbons and stars on her chest glittered under the fluorescent lights. Her nameplate read General Monroe, and every man in that building knew exactly who she was: the highest-ranking officer in the state, a legend in military circles, and the first black woman to ever hold her rank nationally. "Uncuff her. Immediately," the general ordered, her eyes blazing. The guard stammered. "But General, I said uncuff her." Monroe snapped, stepping nose to nose with the nearest man. "Unless you want to add unlawful detainment of a decorated veteran to the felony list you're building." With trembling fingers, the guards obeyed, unlocking the cuffs. Amara rolled her wrists, biting back the sting. "General," she greeted flatly, voice tight but controlled. "Ma'am." "At ease, Sergeant Jenkins." The general nodded, then turned, unleashing a storm onto the stunned staff and customers. "Let me make this perfectly clear," she thundered. "Sergeant Jenkins served under my command for over a decade. She completed more tours than anyone here combined. She holds a Distinguished Service Cross, a Bronze Star, and expert marksman certifications that none of you could dream of achieving. And you dare to humiliate her? To handcuff her? To accuse her of fraud because you made assumptions based on the color of her skin and the fact that she's a woman?" Dead silence. Not even the air moved. "This is not just an internal matter," she continued. "This is now a federal matter. Detaining a retired service member without cause. Racial profiling. Gender discrimination. Civil rights violations. I've already contacted the Judge Advocate General's office, and legal action is pending." The manager, red-faced and sweating, stammered. "Gee, General, we didn't." "Didn't what?" she barked. Didn't think she belonged here? Didn't believe a woman could outshoot half this room? Didn't think someone who looks like her could possibly be more qualified than any of you? She pointed at the security camera. Good. Keep that footage. You'll need it when the DOJ calls. Slowly, she turned back to Amara, her face softening. Sergeant, would you like to continue your practice session? A slow grin spread across Amara's face, wicked and razor-sharp. Yes, ma'am. Lane 5. The general nodded. Proceed. But she wasn't done. Turning to the rest of the stunned audience, Monroe added, and since there's so much doubt in this room, why don't we make it interesting? Qualification rounds. Right here. Right now. Sergeant Jenkins versus anyone in this building who thinks they can outshoot her. A few men bristled. One muttered, "This is ridiculous." Monroe's eyes narrowed. Step up or shut up. One by one, the cowards backed down. No one volunteered, because deep down they knew. They saw it in her eyes, in the way her hands checked her gear, in the way she carried herself. She wasn't just someone who practiced shooting. She was someone who had fired under pressure, under fire, in the darkest corners of the world. As Amara lined up at lane 5, the crowd stood silent. Her first shot hit dead center. Her second split the first. Her third barely touched paper because the hole was already perfect. The room filled with stunned silence, then a slow ripple of applause. Not from the ones who mocked her, but from the younger veterans, the ones who recognized what real strength looked like. By the time she packed up, the owner was gone, fired on the spot. The security guards were suspended pending investigation. Lawsuits were filed, settlements were paid. But more importantly, policies changed. Sensitivity training was mandated. Anti-bias workshops became required. The story hit the news. Veteran handcuffed at shooting range. General steps in. Interviews followed. Awareness spread. But to Amara, the real victory wasn't the apology. It wasn't the payout. It was the simple fact that when they tried to strip away her dignity, thinking she was powerless, a door opened, and someone with more stars than their tiny minds could fathom walked in and flipped the entire script. And as she walked out of that range, head high, Amara smiled. Let them remember. Let them never forget.